Yo, welcome to my channel, King Bullet here. As many of you already know, today we will be talking about a fan-made alternate ending of Attack on Titan called Attack on Titan No Requiem. This fan-made ending is made by Team Attack On Titan No Requiem, who are all very talented and diverse. Also in the description, I will actually link down below where you can read the chapter and where you can find the art used within this video. My guess is the title is called Attack On Titan No Requiem in reference to the Akatsuki no Requiem theory. If you don't know what that is, I've done a video on that, you can check it out. It could be in reference to that, or it could be in reference to Code Geass's ending and Lelouch's final plan, the Zero Requiem plan. In no way is this video like a promotion or anything. I am genuinely just a fan of this project, and I seem to like the direction it's going in. Just to quickly note, this is a 100% non-profit project. It was made by a group of people who are very disappointed in the ending of Attack on Titan, and that's another thing. In no way have they disrespected the original ending, or are they disrespecting the original author. Nobody's trying to retcon the actual ending. This is essentially a fanfiction. I feel like most people are left unsatisfied by the original ending of Attack on Titan, which unfortunately wasn't too great, as you might already know if you read the chapter or listened to any of my analysis on it. So this fan ending essentially allows this team to voice the broader community's views and hopefully being capable of delivering a better ending. One that doesn't betray the themes of Attack on Titan and regress the character of Eren Yeager. I would definitely recommend reading the actual chapter yourself before you see my analysis on it. Something you need to know before you actually read it, however, is that Attack on Titan No Requiem, this chapter, starts after chapter 136 canon has concluded. So this is essentially chapter 137, if that makes sense. Remember the chapter where Zeke explains the hallucigenia's backstory and talks to Armin in Paths talking about his nihilism? Essentially this chapter replaces that. So at this point in time, only one chapter has been released. I assume there'll be more chapters coming out soon, covering at least up to 139, possibly further. I don't know too much about that. The chapter is also available now in Spanish as well as English, and even has an accompanying soundtrack for this chapter, which is really cool. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this. We see Kid Eren lying down next to a tree, that tree in chapter 1. My assumption is they're gonna try and link this chapter back into chapter 1. Eren's supposed long dream, the one that makes him cry. Kid Eren seems to be waking up, and as he wakes up he sees current Eren in Paths, while he sees his back. And can I quickly mention how beautiful this panel looks? The artists working on this are really talented, and it really does show. I mean, this looks official. The way they've drawn Paths is beautiful. You'll notice how beautifully everything is drawn throughout the chapter. You can tell this hasn't been rushed at all. So moving on to the next panel. Long ago, when our world was still young, and all manner of unknown things began to form, life was born, and we see the hallucigenia. The hallucigenia is even given its own backstory, like how brilliant is that? Even its own kind of character, I suppose, right? Since Zeke explains that all life forms evolve, and as a species, humans have become arrogant in their conquests, each species being kin-altruistic, deeming themselves to be special alone. The writers of this chapter have linked science, the law, and the theme of selfishness together. They've tied them in really well. And yet in spite of all of the odds, the hallucigenia persisted through the millennia and refused to pass on. So already the hallucigenia is made parallels with Ymir, sharing the same ambition, waiting for something, waiting for somebody, for a purpose. Other nice features they added, once again this flower, the flower that represents Ymir. The hallucigenia is shown falling, so it essentially makes that parallel between it and Ymir more obvious, since Ymir falls in a similar way when first encountering the hallucigenia, when falling into that tree. Talking about that tree, current Eren takes Kid Eren to that tree, the tree where it all began, the tree where the hallucigenia encountered Ymir. The same as the original chapter 137, Zeke talks about his nihilism, and that there's no deeper meaning, possibly, to any of this after all. Therefore, all of these years of suffering have been for nothing, and there's no point of persevering. He says regardless of how and why, this is where the history began. This is where Ymir became the founder. But there is one thing for certain, no matter how hard you try to fight it, death is inevitable. So why bother seeking something as arbitrary as meaning at all, according to Zeke? It's quite strange, because in the original chapter 137, I enjoy Zeke's dialogue on beings wanting to multiply, since it kind of linked into the parent and child relationship theme. Something they haven't really addressed in the Attack on Titan No Requiem chapter. Current Eren and Kid Eren watch Ymir as she runs, heading towards that tree where she interacts with the hallucigenia. Zeke says all of these lives that never needed to suffer, all of these paths created from arrogance and a desire to defy the very nature of a world. So here they're kind of expanding on Zeke's philosophy. Rather than it being completely nihilistic, Zeke does care for people, however he values death more than anything, since death can spare you from suffering, which I think is actually more consistent for Zeke's character, since if Zeke was truly just a complete nihilist, then he wouldn't really try and carry out his euthanization plan. None of it would really matter. Instead of not caring for life, he rather pities life. Back to Attack on Titan No Requiem, I think they do a better job than the original at linking all of these different themes like predeterminism and the persistence of life together, so the lore is being connected to these themes, which is really interesting. They talk about Ymir and hallucigenia wanting to survive, so being banished to a place free from death, which is ironic and fitting at the same time. They also talk about her godlike power, but forever being a slave. It's a bit of a paradox. But most interestingly, Ymir uses the earth to create these monsters that perpetuate this cycle of suffering, something Zeke is completely opposed to. Moving to the next panel, Armin realizes that there's a contradiction here. So she has all of his power, she's free of death, so why not use his power to truly free herself? This being a conundrum, Zeke has tried to answer that question, but he couldn't fully grasp why. Why she didn't exact her revenge on the people who actually enslaved her and harmed her. Perhaps there was a condition to her power. However, apparently this wasn't the case, but rather that she was bound to another. She was incapable of separating her own desires from her abusers, so once again this slave and master relationship is brought up. But why could she not break this? So she was bound to her abuser, but why? Her suffering was great, but only Eren could understand her, when Zeke certainly couldn't. That's why she joined with Eren. Eren offered her something that he couldn't. So the three, Eren, Ymir, and hallucigenia, have all become bound by their fundamental desire. And that was freedom. So Kid Eren asks current Eren, is Ymir finally free? Are we all free now? Eren says not yet. Ymir is no longer alone. Is that enough? Apparently not. This panel is really cool, by the way, and the next panel is even more unbelievable. You've got to admit, that is a really cool panel. Like, that must have taken ages to draw. So Ymir's been waiting for 2,000 long years for somebody to free her, to free everybody. This power was shown to Eren, what could have been, the branches of things that have passed, what can't be changed, what can be changed. That's what the paths is. It's like this tree with branches and possibilities, but Eren really seeks only one outcome. So current Eren tells Kid Eren that he will forget everything he learnt here, but he won't forget what he felt, hence his crying when he wakes up. It'll all just feel like a long dream. So Eren here is emotionally touched, since he's always seeked freedom, and learning that that's what Ymir, their founder, seeks, genuinely touched him. That freedom is that fundamental desire that everything seeks. Eren states that he's walked through these plains for what feels like an eternity. Just like his brother Zeke, he tried to see and understand through the combined power of the Attack Titan and the Founding Titan. He could see the results of everything. He saw both peace and endless destruction. Over and over and over again, without any sight, infinitely spiraling away. Eren felt a desire to end this all, to end the never-ending cycle of hatred. He tried to change the flow of things and save people he cared about, but he realized to achieve his goal that sacrifice was unavoidable. People had to die for this cause, to destroy the ongoing cycle of hatred and achieve true freedom. He had to be prepared to sacrifice the entire world. So he tells Armin that he needs to keep moving forward until all of his enemies are destroyed. What an amazing cliffhanger and way to end this fantastic chapter, with Eren establishing his motivation, finally. So what's my opinion on this chapter? Well, I think it's quite good. I do have my issues with it, but they're very minor. I have a feeling that all my concerns will be addressed in future chapters, those minor concerns just being like other thematics, like sins of a father, maternity, and how they link in with these other themes that they mentioned in this chapter. Since I have a feeling this might all interlink into freedom. That seems to be the path they're going with. Overall, I thought the chapter was really good, probably like a 9 out of 10. It fits in line with my theories in the past, and what I theorized his motivations were, and it goes in line with Eren's development, so it's coherent. We understand that he's willing to sacrifice the world, since if you take freedom away from Eren, then he will take away your freedom. If the world takes away his freedom, he will take away the world's freedom. He's a fighter. There's always going to be people who perhaps didn't like this chapter. I personally think it was an improvement on chapter 137, since at least they've told us Eren's motivations. You can say there's something cool about like Eren's motivations being ambiguous in the original. However, I don't think that was a really good idea, since I found that it really confused me on what the story was really about, and not even in an open-ended way, but in a way where like it wasn't really comprehensive. At least with Attack on Titan No Requiem, the story makes more sense, and it feels like all that build-up prior actually matters, since Eren's actually starting to give us insight on his thought process. Like, we hardly really got any like Eren point of views in the original. I feel like that's what it was missing. You know, Eren is the protagonist. I feel like the spotlight should have been on him more. Considering that the protagonist killed 80% of the world's population, I would expect some sort of justification or some sort of interesting thought process. And at worst case scenario, if you're not going to do that, at least relate it to the themes. If you enjoyed this, I will link down below the Attack on Titan No Requiem socials, so I'll link down their Twitter and also the official website that actually hosts the chapters. Please show them some support. Remember, at the end of the day, if you liked it or not, it's a fan project, which is literally non-profit. They get nothing. At least I get something when I talk about it, which isn't really much. So please don't direct any hate towards anyone. I don't think it's worth it at this point. If you enjoyed this video and this analysis and want to see more stuff like this, it would be much appreciated if you could subscribe to me and also like the video. If you want to see me talk about other stuff, you can comment down below what you want to see me talk about. I'm very open to reading and watching new things. That should wrap everything up. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Peace out.